What's up, everybody? This is your man, Dr. John C. Turner, aka the Professor JT, aka Dr. JT, and I'm telling you, I am so excited to be back with you. Episode 5, Season 4 of the Doc Chat, and I'm telling you, I got the heavy hitters on tonight, and we are going to have a conversation of epic proportions because this is one that people have really asked about. And if it wasn't for Dr. Randolph and Dr. Kemp here, it probably wouldn't have happened. But they said they wanted it, and we're having it. This is the Doc Chat Show with your man, the host, Dr. John C. Turner, aka the Professor JT. Dr. JT, I got the man, Dr. Dennis Whitfield, Dr. Candice Randolph, and the man with the plan, Dr. Desmond Kemp, who is here on tonight. Hey, if you are checking us out, let us know you're checking us out. This is the Doc Chat. We are live on LinkedIn. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. We live everywhere because people need to hear from the best doctors in the world, and they come here on the Doc Chat to let their voice be heard. So without further ado, this is a ladies first show, y'all. So we're going to ask the great Dr. Candice Randolph to introduce herself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Welcome back to the Doc Chat Show. We appreciate you.
Good evening and congrats on season 4. I remember season 1. So
Sorry.
yay you or yay us. As he said, I am Dr. Condecia Randolph. I don't remember what comes after that. I my doctorate degree discipline is strategic leadership. So I'm a leadership and organizational development expert. My particular research areas are the mitigating effects of culture and race on leadership, and my doctoral research was in examining the Black American church from a leadership and org development lens and looking at the overall effectiveness of that system, as well as the challenges, deficiencies, hiccups that surround it, and how that system defines leadership, or overall how it also, that leadership system then impacts the remainder of the US and the world globally. So, how that kind of matriculates out to broader societal context.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Dr. Dennis Whitfield back on the Doc Chat once again. We appreciate you, my brother. Let folks know a little bit about yourself and welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Again, congrats on this season. It's nothing like the Doc Chat. And like you said, I am always excited to be a part. So my name is Dr. Whitfield, and for short is Dr. Whitty, Whitty. My field is leadership development coaching. I got my degree from Walden University. My particular study was cultural humility as a predictor of intention to leave. So I did some research on cultural humility, just talking about how important it is for us to be aware of all cultures and be humble enough to admit that we don't know everything about every culture, but we're willing to learn so that we can develop better relationships everywhere we are and whoever we find ourselves in company with. So once again, I'm glad to be a part of the show tonight, and I look forward to the conversation.
We appreciate you, my brother. And making the Doc Chat Show debut, Dr. Desmond Kemp. We appreciate you being on the Doc Chat, my friend. Let folks know a little bit about yourself. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. JT, for having me. And it is great to support another IU alum. I am Dr. Desmond L. Kemp. I graduated from the Indiana University Indianapolis campus with a PhD in American Studies. And my study was on Tweet or Fired, and an analysis on the practice of managing public sector employees that engage on social media, where I looked at and interviewed 7 HR managers in the local government to see how they are sanctioning and managing the public sector employees that interact with the public on social media. And I did a content analysis on their social media policies and to see if the language was transparent in the policy. And also, currently, what I am doing, I am an assistant professor with Kennesaw State University in the Interdisciplinary Studies Department, and as well the CEO of De Lamar Communication Agency, where I focus on social policies that have community-based impact.
Absolutely love it. We appreciate it. The folks are tuning in. We appreciate y'all. Dr. Diana, we appreciate you. A great University of Phoenix doctorate graduate. We are excited to have her on next week with Dr. Van. They're going to talk about the great things they did going through their programs. And we are so super excited to have that show on next week. We appreciate your support, always tuning in. And Dr. Rochelle, good evening to you. We appreciate you tuning in as well. This is going to be an exciting show. And so let's go ahead and jump into it. I want to bring up how this all started because it's important to know that with this particular show, it started with me looking at my 10-year anniversary of when I received my acceptance letter to the IU School in Indianapolis. I actually was a McNair Scholar as well that did research in undergrad that helped me prepare to get a doctorate degree. So to end up back at the school where I was able to become a McNair Scholar was just a dream come true to me. And I remember how I felt that day, how the tears flowed as I read that letter, but it was the preparation of meeting with the director and the chair of the program. It was putting on my refrigerator, in Jesus' name, I'm going to become a doctor. Just all these affirmations I made sure I put on there to let myself know I could do this. But man, once I got into that program, I never knew what I would go through, how life would happen, how my father passed away, how I went through different jobs, how I tried dating and all those different types of things. And it was just horrible. All the horrific things that happened in my life when I got that letter, but not knowing that life is going to life until you get that doctorate done. And you got to be okay with that. You got to understand it's going to happen. And so one of the greatest aspects of that was having the amazing Dr. Kemp and the amazing Dr. Randolph say, hey, man, we need to talk about this. We really need to talk more about it. So that's why I'm glad that they are on the show today to talk about it with Dr. Whitty. And we're just going to jump right into it. So Dr. Randolph, we're going to start out with you. That first day you got that letter, the acceptance letter, even preparing up until you applied, what was life for you like? And then what was it when you got that acceptance that day? How did it make you feel?
Okay, so first of all, let me let all of you guys who are listening know I told him to start with someone else. He does not follow instructions.
Women first. We ladies first. Ladies
and
first.
I can take the liberty to say that to him. So I guess I'm a little different in that I actually was accepted to 2 different doctoral programs at 2 different points in my life. I have a little bit of my background. I actually have 2 master's degrees. After I completed the first one, which is a master in public administration with an emphasis on public policy from Walden University, I applied for their PhD in public policy with an emphasis in law program. Got accepted. So when I got accepted to that one, I actually do vaguely remember because I had a doctor's appointment that day, and it was with my old primary care physician. And I think my blood pressure might have been just a little elevated because, I was excited. And he was like, is everything good? I was like, oh, yeah, I just got accepted to a doctorate program. So, he was really excited for me. That being said, I did not finish that program because of health reasons. And life happens as life does, as Dr. Turner just mentioned. And for me, things, just took a different direction. And as I began to have the yearning to go back to school or to finish what I started, I wasn't really interested in that program at that university anymore. And so I began to seek out other universities. Long story short, I ended up doing a second master's degree at Regent before I applied for the doctoral program. We won't take you through that whole story at this point in the broadcast. Anywho, graduated with that second master's. And in terms of applying for the doctorate, I actually had not told anyone. It was just like, yeah, I knew that was my next step. The Lord had confirmed that to me like a year and a half before when I was praying and fasting, when I was in that second semester of that second doctorate or that second, master's degree. But I really hasn't shared it with people. Didn't care to tell anybody what my next educational step was because, it was always, well, you're always in school. Nobody needs all of that, right? And essentially, it was about a month maybe after I graduated. And I called myself just calling the admissions office again to firm up some of what I had been told previously to make sure I had a full understanding, all the ducks are in a row. I just want to make sure. So it's a X amount of year program, X amount of work is involved. It is primarily online. And then so here's the big cliffhanger for me. I don't have a PhD, which meant that in theory, it was not a research intensive program and did not require me to write a dissertation and did not require a lot of writing. This is what the admissions person told me, okay? I would like everyone to know that was probably only 25% true. The only part of that statement that was true is that I did not have to write a dissertation to graduate, and I did not. I actually wrote 3 dissertations. What I ended up doing, Dr. Kemp, what I ended up doing was 400 pages. So a dissertation would have been a lot easier. That being said, so, made sure I understood what everything was. And I don't know, I guess I'm an overachiever. So I couldn't just sit still because my plan was not to start until the next year, until January, give myself some time off. Mm-hmm. I applied. A few days go by. I get an answer and it's like, okay, you got accepted. And it's like, okay, great. And for me, I did all that build up just to say that my affect was like, okay, great. Well, I was fresh off of a degree. So for me, it was just like, yeah, you got accepted to another program. That's nice. When do I have to pay? Okay, now I have to pay a deposit. When do I have to pay that by? Okay, well, I have a few months. I can think about that. And so for me, I don't know. It was degree number 4. Mm-hmm. And so it was, I will say this, albeit I was pleased because I knew that was the route God had for me. Mm-hmm. That elation was not there. And I fully accept that I did not put great thought into what that might have really meant for the next 4 years of my life, right? There was no thought beyond where I was aside from when is the deposit due? that was the only real thing on my mind is, okay, I have to pay you by when, and in order to register for classes for next January, I have to have it paid by this date. Like that was the only thing that I was preoccupied with. Right. It wasn't until later that summer when I paid the deposit and then they called me from advising was like, well, hey, one of the first courses you have to take has some space in it available if you want to take it early. Me being the idiot I am says, well, sure. I won't wait till January. I'll go ahead and start in October, right? I don't. Yeah. So, but now getting to the point where of the real show, right? What would I tell me? I would tell me it's okay. Just wait until January. Give yourself just a little bit more time before you hop on that bus of insanity. Because the moment that I told them, sure, the moment that I paid my deposit, in fact, that's the other thing I would tell myself, wait a little bit longer to pay your deposit. As soon as I paid my deposit, financial aid was calling me. Okay, let's make sure you can get okay, great. You got your financial aid. All right, here's the first class. Okay, great. Now it's time to order books. Then they opened the syllabus for the class. And all of a sudden my life went from whatever my life looked like before then, because I really don't even remember, to now you need 4 textbooks for this class. The first week of the class, you have to read a whole textbook and pull 7 articles. Yeah. And so, what do you tell yourself? Buckle up.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm telling you, we are just getting rolling here on the Doc Chat. Got Dr. Whitfield, Dr. Randolph, Dr. Kemp. And we're talking about how it felt getting that acceptance letter. And man, some of the stuff you would tell yourself if you could go back in time at that particular time on what you were about to get yourself into. So Dr. Whitfield, what was it like? You got your letter. how was you feeling that particular time? And just, man, what would you tell yourself?
Well, I gotta start just with a little piece of backstory so you can, I guess, so people can understand what I'm about to say. But I'm thinking about when I first got out of high school and I made the attempt to go to college. And I'll just say I did not do well in college when I first started, and it was mainly because I probably just wasn't ready. All the freedom I wasn't ready for. So, but I also discovered that I was failing for another reason, which I found very laughable several years later. And what I mean is just move forward after I didn't do well in college. Now I'm several years ahead in the military, and I start college, and it was online. I started online, so they send you your courses and everything, and you have to follow your syllabus. So I came home one day and I was just in hysterical laughter about. I said, "Hey, I finally realized why I didn't do good in college." And so my wife said, "Why?" I said, "Well, because nobody told me I had to read this thing called the syllabus." so, so I mean, it's funny. It's funny to me because I had heard this word periodically during the instruction, but I never thought to ask what it was. I just thought it was a part of what was being said. And then I realized, hey, well, no wonder I was failing. I wasn't following the syllabus. So when I became an adjunct, a part of my first briefing to my students was, please read the syllabus. And they all would laugh because it was, second nature to them, I guess. And then I would tell them my story so they would understand why I said, no, please read, read the syllabus. But to your question, when I got my acceptance letter, I think I was excited, but I didn't know what was to come. So, first of all, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't even thinking about. I wanted to go to college. I never knew I'd go. Then I finally went, and I graduated with my bachelor's degree. Then I graduated from Liberty University with 2 master's degrees, and then I went to Walden. I would have stayed at Liberty, but Liberty didn't have a doctoral program that I wanted. So I stumbled across Walden, and I just applied for the program, and I got in, obviously, but I didn't know what was to come. So what I would tell myself is, when you apply for a doctoral program, probably learn about what's to come, how much work is involved, and also just make sure that you set up a support system for yourself, because once you declare that you're going to do something, and this is anything, not just a doctoral degree, but specifically speaking of doctoral degree, once you declare, hey, I'm going to go after this thing, I tell people everything and anything is going to happen to you, around you, whatever you want to call it, because it's going to challenge you to finish. Mm-hmm. And you all know, you've seen people, they've lost relatives, they've lost jobs, they've lost friends, they failed classes, all kinds of things. One of my colleagues, he got kicked out of Walden, and now he's back in, but I will not let him give up. And so the one thing I told him, I said, when you start, you have chosen me as your resource, as your support system. Excuse me, I am not going to let you give up. So every time he feels like giving up, he calls me, and I won't let him. And I tell him, that's why you hired me, because I'm not going to allow you to accept your excuse and give up. And so he's back in there. So I encourage him and everything. And he, by the way, has lost a brother and a sister while he's in the program. And so, so that's why you have to have that support system, and you have to realize what you're gonna be doing in the program. So
That's good.
I'm gonna stop right there because yeah.
We appreciate that, Dr. Whitty. I'm telling y'all, we are getting tips that are so needed, and we appreciate everybody that's tuning in. We appreciate you again, Dr. Edwards. Look, you never know what the right reasons or the right time is. You just got to go for it. You do just got to go for it. And we appreciate you, Dr. Michelle, as well. It's just one of those things to where you wish you could change some stuff, but you just won't change the fact you got done. If you got done, you just happy you got done. So we just excited about that. So Dr. Kemp, we're gonna go to you, my IU Indianapolis brother. We are so excited that now we are Research One holding doctorate degree holders. What would you tell yourself? You got into that program, you're a Black man. What was it like getting that letter, getting that email? And what were some things you would tell your past self about right now?
Whew. So my journey was interesting, and I actually started out in 2015 like you did, and it didn't start out as me entering into a doctoral program right away. It was me. I was in the process of teaching. I was teaching in Chicago, at, and I was teaching fifth and sixth grade at the time, and I was also the teacher advocacy leader, and that meant that I had to attend some of the public education meetings and work with families and the community, whatever. All right. So one day I'm teaching my class, minding my business, doing what I'm supposed to do, making my money, having fun. And one of my coworkers, mom, who was a principal in a state, was visiting for that week because she was on spring break or whatever, and she was just asking me, "Can I observe your class today?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" She observed my class that afternoon, and for me, this so where this story is going is I feel like God shows me things in the signs of three, and so this is sign number one. And so the night before, so this is a Thursday. Night before was Wednesday night, and I had just found out that DePaul University and a few other schools were going to be launching new doctoral programs. So I was just like, hey, this might be an opportunity because I'll get funding, and then I'll have the opportunity to go to school for free, and it'll be something that I could gain experience from, additional experiences. This is something that I think I want to do, and having the full tuition funding was something that I definitely said that I wanted because I had already helped students get millions of dollars in scholarships. So I said, if I can help undergrads get this, I can get it for myself too.
Yeah.
All right. So that was the night before. So that was Wednesday. I'm looking at all the funding programs, the funded programs, and different things. Then I just threw it to the side because I had to do some grading and do some other things. Well, I go in my classroom the next day to teach, and she's observing, and then the kids are highly engaged. That day they acted right, and they were highly engaged. We had a great time. It was a great lesson, everything, and at the end of the class, they left the classroom and I was cleaning up, and me and her was she and I was in the classroom together, and she said, "This is not your end." And I was looking at her like, "What?" She said, "Whatever you were thinking about last night, that's it."
My God.
And I said, "Okay." So fast, so fast forward a few months later, I decided to go. I get an opportunity to teach my master thesis, which I did a thesis on developing college and career readiness programs for community organizations. And so I had the opportunity to create one of the courses at one of the high schools in Chicago and teach it. So I went to the high school. As I'm standing there teaching, one of my students, she stopped me and she says, "Mr. Kemp." And I said, "Yes." She said, "We don't care." And I was like, "What you mean?" She said, "You are teaching like we are college students, and we are not there. Is whatever you do, we don't care. We are teenagers. We don't care about that right now. We got other stuff on our minds." And one of the other boys said, "Yeah, Kemp, you should really consider teaching on a collegiate level." All
Wow.
right. What they didn't know is the next week I was going to an open house at a university in Milwaukee, and so I was like, okay. And I had just registered to take this that November. all right, moving forward, GRE, I started doing my applications, and then just so happened, my principal at the time, she had her doctorate, and she said, "You think about getting a doctorate?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "If you do, go and just go and be a student. Do not work and do this." She said, "Because that's crazy for people that work and go to school full time." And I said, "Okay," and I considered it after she and I had that conversation. I considered to see. She said, "Because most people end up being crazy, and you don't want to be crazy." And I
I
took
feel
that
targeted
advice.
by that comment.
I'm about to say, I lived that life. I came out okay.
But yeah, I took that at heart, and because I was like, I was starting to listen to people who had gone through the experience, and I went ahead and submitted my application. When I got to the post office to get ready to deliver one of my applications, there's this lady walking out, and I, being who I am, decided to hold the door for her, and I spoke to her, "Hey, how are you?" And as I'm getting ready to walk in, she said, "Stop." And I said, "Okay." And I turned around and she says, "Your next level is here. So whatever
Mm,
you're getting ready to do, it's time."
my God.
So that was my third sign. So what ended up happening, and I initially started my journey at Clark Atlanta University. And Clark Atlanta that was where I ended up taking a few of my students on a college tour, because one of the students' mom had a she had a medical issue, and she said, "Hey, I need someone to take my son to tour Clark Atlanta because this is his number one school." And I did that for her. And when I got to Clark, I saw that they had the humanities program, and I was very excited. So I said, I'll apply for the humanities program. And I got in, got to Clark Atlanta, and it was an experience. I enjoyed my time there until we had some funding conflicts. And in the midst of all of that, I competed on a national level for scholarships, and I won two major doctoral scholarships in the process. One with the Congressional Black Caucus, and then with the NFBPA, the National Forum of Black Public Administrators. And so received those two scholarships, and there were institutions recruiting me from Clark Atlanta. And when I realized, I said, "Okay, I'm being recruited. I probably should probably consider transferring to go to another school," because I realized I wasn't going to get any funding after my second year at Clark. And I needed to, and I wanted to complete the journey. So therefore, for me, it was like, hey, go into a funded program this time. Go fully funded versus partially funded. And
Yeah.
and so a I went into a student event, and this is one thing that I would say that I wish somebody would have told me. Going to student events really does make an impact on your decisions.
Absolutely.
And I went to the student event, and there is a person that says, "We have a few opportunities for students on the public history website. So you guys that are students, you should go on there." Again, I'm a person that listens to songs. I went online while he was standing there talking, and I saw that Indiana University was looking for 12 students to come into the American Studies program. And I was like, okay. So I left campus and applied the next day. Well, no, I sent an email to Dr. Herbersky, who was my program director, and I said, "Hey, I am Desmond L. Kemp, current PhD student at Clark Atlanta University. Recently just won a research competition and other things." And I listed all the scholarships that I received. And he said, "You're the student we're looking for," pretty
Nice.
much in the email. And And again, there's another thing, being ambitious and knowing your worth and knowing your value. That was another thing that taught me a lot in this process was you got to know your self-worth and what it means. If you say you're a scholar, if you say that you can do those things, then you need to act like you can do it. And now I had only won one competition or contest at the school, but I wasn't dare to say it, like I had never been published or anything, but that was
Mhm.
my first time actually doing major research projects. And in my first one, I won the competition. And so that it was exciting to get my letter to IU because I had already done 2 years at Clark Atlanta, and I felt very prepared because CAU, they wore me down. they when I don't know if any of you have ever heard the stories about being a graduate student at a black college, but it's true. Black colleges will definitely prepare you for everything. I learned how to write. I learned how to make an argument. I learned how to be and carry a great presence whenever I enter into the room. So those
Good.
were things that they provided, and it wasn't and that wasn't even my first time at HBCU. That was because I went to undergrad at North Carolina A&T. So, but
Mhm.
to get it on a graduate level was so much more rigorous. It was much more the culture was heavily embedded in our process
Good.
at CAU. So when I got to Indiana, I was ready to run, and I was
Awesome.
just like, I'm good now. I'm good to go. And Indiana University gave me so much love. And you know, John, that's how we met. We came across each other in the hallway one time.
Yeah.
But um, but at the same time, I got so much love from the community at IU and on our campus especially. We had great support systems, and I can always say that one of the things that I feel was very important is the fact that I took the time and the initiative to get to know the faculty and the staff
That's good.
before I was a student. I researched all of them, and then when I got in the door, I started talking about their offices. And, hey, I've read about you. Can we have a chat? And that's how it worked out because I didn't even know because that was fall 2019, and then 2020. Here's the pandemic. So I
Yeah.
only had 6 months to really get to know everybody, and this is my third year as a PhD student completely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the whole experience for me was very fast paced once I got to Indiana.
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome right there.
yeah,
I'm telling y'all, man, this is the Doc Chet Show. These are the tips that we know people want. I'm seeing people that's tuning in, that's showing up, that's letting them know that they're checking us out. Dr. Hawkins, we appreciate you, my brother. We appreciate all the love. We got a good question here. We're going to make sure we get into this question because I think this is another thing. Do you really get scholarships when you get into a doctorate program? I gotta ask my guest right here because I think sometimes that's another notion that people don't realize what type of funding or how funding works when you get into doctorate program. So we're gonna get into that. So Dr. Randolph, we're gonna go back to you, and I'm telling you, folks, continue to send the comments in. Continue to let us know what were some things you wish you would have known when you got into your doctorate program, or you're wishing you knew now before you get in. Shout those out in the comments. Shout us out and we appreciate y'all tuning in. Dr. Randolph, what are some other things that you would add? Like, man, I wish somebody would have told me this, or I wish I'd have known this as you went through your program.
We only had like an hour and a half, right? And I say that, but Dr. Turner and I knew each other throughout the duration of our programs, and so
Right.
he's heard some of my stories and he knows some of my struggles. There's lots of things that I would have told myself. If we go back to the beginning, I would have, and if I'm going to be 100%, I'll use the trending word transparent. I would have told myself to humble yourself. And coming off of a third degree, my second master's is in law from Regent University Law School, which was and continues to be an ascending program, nationally ranked. Professors who were from Ivy League schools, and going to law school was my dream, and it was one that I did away with, right? And so for me, that third degree, when we talk about the Lord and His plan for us, it was happenstance. And I did not realize until I was actually drafting the Facebook post after graduation that that degree was about God manifesting a 7-year-old's dream 30 years later, for Him to show me that what I give you in the dreams that I have for you, it doesn't matter how long they take, I will still do them. So, I'm coming off of that high, got into the program, life is good, whatever. And I went into that first class. And so when I say humble yourself and then be realistic, let's use those two things. The first thing is, let's go with the be realistic first. I had a job. I worked 40 hours a week. I did not have the luxury of, I'll use the word luxury. I did not have the luxury of seriously considering programs in other states and what have you, because I had a house. I was a full professional with a house, community engagement responsibilities. And so for me, the program had to be mostly online because, I had a mortgage and Wells Fargo didn't care about, hey, you want to go to school, right? That wasn't part of the monthly payment. And so for me, working 40 hours a week and really putting in 40 hours a week in school, it meant that you had like very little time to sleep, eat. There was no social life. Don't video call me anymore. Please relegate yourself to text messaging. I do not have time for phone calls, right? No, those are the things that people don't tell you up front. It's like, oh my God, congratulations. It's such an honor. Here's the financial aid. Here, fill out for this scholarship. Here, your books. Here's the syllabus. Yeah, all of that stuff is good, right? And we need to know all of that stuff. But none of that stuff will matter if you don't understand the realistic stuff. So if you're not afforded the luxury of not working because you're in a fully funded GA position or a Kemper fellow or Pickering fellow or, Gates fellow, if you're one of those people who still got to go to work every day, and then when you come home, you have to read 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chapters.
Man.
Go find this here. You got a 10-page paper due at the end of the week, and then you still got to go and answer some other homework questions. Right? If you are that student, let me talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not practical to think, and I get it. Let me be clear. I'm not discouraging those people who have families, because I won't say that I don't have a husband and I don't have children. So no one lived in my house but me. But I had colleagues who had wives and little kids. Like one of my colleagues had a 2-year-old. His wife, not a 2-year-old, 2-month-old. His wife had just had a baby. She was finishing up her PhD. Those of y'all who could be in those situations who actually have children, they have to lock themselves in rooms and they stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning, right? Yeah. These are the things that people don't tell you, is that if you want to actually achieve that, those are the sacrifices you have to make. Even if you're single and don't have children, when I went home for Thanksgiving and Christmas and would go home over the summer for a long holiday, my family's in another room watching a movie. I'm at the dining room table. Yeah. Like when the time I finally graduated, my mother was like, something's different. It was that Christmas. And she was like, oh, you're watching TV with us. Because like for 4 years, I wasn't engaging in that with my family. Like I wasn't cooking Thanksgiving. I would go in the kitchen for an hour, then I had to go back somewhere else for 2 more hours and work on some paper or something, right? So that's the thing that we really need to tell people, is that it's not as simplistic or as picturesque as making sure we read the syllabus and making sure we have the funding and making sure we have a dedicated area in your home to study. Let me be clear, a dedicated home in your area to study is necessary. Going to the library or a Starbucks, like I lived at Starbucks my first semester. I think I about wore that chair out. I don't know how much free coffee they gave me, because I would leave work and I went to Starbucks. I get up on Saturday, I went to Starbucks. I get up at one point, my friend, just to see me, she had to come to Starbucks and do something on her computer, because that was all I had, right? Did not have anything else to give anyone, right? Yeah. So that's what somebody needs to start telling these students in that orientation, in that first semester. It's like, okay, great, you're here, wonderful. Let me tell you what it's really going to take to get you to the end. Because your life cannot be what it was when you started. If you like to go to the movies every weekend and watch 3 or 4 movies at a time, then this is not for you. Like being a doctor is not gonna work for you. If you're a person who has to go to the gym every day, cool. Go to the gym every day. But you might have to start getting up an hour earlier, right? Because your professor doesn't care that you want to go to the gym. In fact, lots of professors don't care that you have a bad day at work or bad week at work. Okay, I've been there. I've been on that end of it. Here, Dr. So-and-so, I won't say that person's name. I had a holistic, it was just a hellacious work week. They took everything I had. By the time I got home, all I had left in me was to lie down so that I did not go to work the next day and commit homicide, right? The response. Understand, but that's not a good enough reason not to turn your assignment in on time. It's like, what are we talking about? Like, this is a Christian university. Where's the compassion, right? The level of compassion and doctoral level is different. It's not the same compassion when you think of compassion, right? Like, these are the things we really need to tell people, like, be realistic.
Then
when I say be humble, my first semester, again, coming off my high, I was good. I've always been gifted at speaking, at writing, and so I thought I knew how to write. That's what I thought. It was great. I'm glad I had confidence. As my doctoral chair told my mother the day I graduated, I never lacked confidence, and I didn't. But when I go back and look at those assignments that I wrote that first semester, I don't know how I got an A because it sucked. And I told her, I was like, I don't know why you gave me an A. Like, did you feel bad for me? What was going on that made you think I deserved an A? Because that was horrible. But to that point, when I got that very first set of assignments back and they weren't A's, and my little feelings were hurt, and I'm ready to go storm the brigade, like try harder, make an appointment at the writing center, good effort. Like, this is what this woman said I cannot forget it. My pride won't let me forget the good efforts. What do you mean good efforts? Like, I gave everything I had to this assignment, and it's not what I expected to get, right?
Yeah.
So have a slice of humble pie, have the whole cake, have it with a side of humble drink. Because I'm just saying, right? And I can say that now because I realized at the beginning of my second semester when we were at residency, when I came face to face with this professor, and is somebody in the war? I don't know what that is. When I came face to face with my professor and realized that I may have kind of met my match in life, then I had to realize that I was being academically. And so, yeah, just understanding that walking into the door, you can be brilliant and they don't care. You could be the next, I can't even, whomever, a genius, you could be the next Albert Einstein, but until you prove to them that you're Albert Einstein, they don't care.
They don't care at all. I'm telling you. And we're going to move on here because I'm telling you, this mic is hot right now. With Dr. Woody, we want to get your thoughts. What would you say? What would you add when it comes to what you wish somebody would have told you?
I always tell people, remember why they started. Because again, just like Dr. Condicia talked about, if you used to, going on vacation, going to the family parties and dinners, whatever it is that you used to doing. I was an avid person who stayed in the gym. In fact, I had to stop going to the gym just so I could get my studies done there after I would come from the gym, I'd be too tired to read those four or five chapters and couldn't think straight. So there were times where I had to stop going to the gym, and I always missed movies. I missed a lot of things, but I can also remember being at the dinners or being at the parties, but my laptop was and I'm somewhere off in the corner trying to type in a assignment to post because I got to post it by a certain time. Yeah. So those are the things that we have to tell people. What are you willing to sacrifice? Because if you're not willing to sacrifice, you're not going to make it to the finish line. I mean, like I said, there are lots of things that'll happen. But if I would tell myself, I say, remember why you started, because I had to endure. And don't get me wrong, I had lots of people that encouraged me. In fact, they would call me, Dr. Whitfield or Dr. Whitty or Reverend Doctor, just all kinds of names when they knew I was in the program, just for encouragement. But I also had people to discourage me. And I couldn't believe the number of doctors that spoke negatively to me when I would talk to them about being in my doctoral program. It's like they would say things like, well, why you in a doctorate program, or what you going to do with a doctorate, or you don't need, it's like, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, doc, you got yours, but you trying to discourage me from getting mine. I don't get that. But, and then I had one person, and I'm not going to use names or anything, but I had I was a part of an organization, and I used to have to sit there and listen to this person, oh, by the way, who had several degrees, talk across the pulpit about, well, such and such is going for their doctorate degree, and they think this or they think that, or nobody cares about your doctorate degree, stuff like that. And it can really be discouraging. And I'm just trying to think of something else, but it slipped my mind. But and then not only that, but this same organization, I was the leader in, and going to school, it was like going to school. They almost made you feel guilty that you was going to school.
That's
like
real.
if you said, well, hey, I need to miss this particular day because I got an exam, or I gotta do excuse me, or I have to do this, it was like you would just be, talked about, chastised, and even sat down from participating in certain, one time I was supposed to speak for a conference, and I asked about something involving school, and then, basically, I was just told, well, you know what, don't even worry about it. We don't need you.
Wow.
And, to somebody that would just give up, I mean, thank God that I didn't. But these are the types of things that you might have to endure. And so
That's right.
I tell people, when you say that you're going to go for something, go for it, no matter what happens. You remember why you started. Only you can stop you. You can stop, but you can't be stopped, is what I like to tell people. And just as an example, at my organization, I had two females that came in, and I'm a part of the employee training team. So I'm the person that people see when they first get hired, and they spend about 3 weeks with me. So I found out through talking to these two new employees that they were in their doctoral programs. And so I asked them, I said, well, what did you stop for? And one person told me she stopped because she felt that it was just too hard to get through the research and to do the defense and all of that. And then another person told me she stopped because she had a child. So by the way, I bought none of the excuses. So I literally looked at them and I said, I don't want to hear that. I said, you guys do what you need to do, but you're going to finish that program. You didn't come all this far just to make an excuse to say it's too hard, or I can't finish, or somebody said this or did that. So long story short, those two people, they went and they got back into their program. And when they needed some sort of help or direction, they asked me. And, today they both are doctors. So you have to have a support structure. You have to remember why you started, and you cannot let other people deter you, distract you, whatever, because they will. Sometimes people don't even know that's what they're doing, but that is what they're doing, and you have to keep going.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely appreciate you, Dr. Whitfield. And I know Dr. Rencher even asked that question about, what do you tell somebody that trying to quit 10 times? Hey, you got to get up 11. That's just what you have to do. You got to keep going because life is going to happen between those 3 to 6 years you're working on that doctorate. And regardless, those 3 to 6 years are going to happen and you got to push through. And I know we had another question somebody asked about those scholarships. Had to realize when you go in a doctorate program, you might not get what's called a particular scholarship. You might have to get, as Dr. Randolph said, that GA position or graduate assistantship position. You might get a fellowship. You might become a fellow somewhere. Or in my case, I was working at an employer, thank the Lord, and they had tuition reimbursement and they paid for my program. So there's ways you can get funding for your doctorate program that aren't student loans, even though student loans are available. But if you can get, like Dr. Kemp was talking about, that fully funded, that is a huge, huge win. And we're going to go to Dr. Kemp here and let him kind of talk about what are, 2 or 3 things you wish somebody would have told you, my brother, as you got into that program.
The first thing is, and I have to be honest, I had a great community of friends who had gotten their doctorates or were in school at the moment. And some advice that I like to add that was given for me was, the first one was to seek therapy immediately prior to start.
Real.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Real.
That's very real.
Talk about
And
it.
yeah, so one of my frat brothers, Dr. Nolan Fontaine, he said, bro, he said, before you start your program, because he was in his program, and he said, the one thing that has paid off for me is therapy. And he said, go to therapy because rejection is real in the PhD process. Whenever you write, sometimes, as has been mentioned before, they say you can't write, you made a mistake here. You have to deal with the criticism. And sometimes you may not be in that mindset to actually fully deal with the criticism. So it's important to be able to have a mental health professional that you can go to be able to vent. And I made sure that I had one prior to, and I had one all through my process. I utilized the school's resources. A lot of people don't talk about that. I wish I had known more about the mental health services that the schools provide right away, because I probably, when I first started out, I actually went and found an external counselor, but didn't realize that the school actually had really good therapists for graduate students. And so I made sure that I utilized those services once I learned more about it. The second thing is I find it's very important that people understand the fact that life does happen. I had to deal with the loss of 5 family members passing during the pandemic, and all of them were not COVID related. And 2 of those family members are both of my grandmothers, maternal and paternal. And in that, I lost the skill of writing. I struggled so badly to get it back. And one of the things that one of the professors, I asked him, hey, is there a way that I could take an incomplete? Because right now I can't complete these assignments because I'm not mentally focused, with one grandmother transitioning and the other one in the process of transitioning. And I said, this is a lot to deal with. And I found that advocating for myself was something that other faculty members and the staff members really appreciated, was because I was able to say, no, this is not going to happen in this moment, because I need to take a step back and before I make serious mistakes. And especially since I was funded, I had to really take precaution around that and make sure that I was not making any errors. And then that's another thing too. Having the funding, you have to read the small print. When they say, and now this is the one thing that nobody told me, when they say read the small print of contracts, that is highly important, because there are some scholarships that are out that say you cannot take pictures with your friends with a liquor liquor bottles or red cups. There are scholarships that really believe you cannot do that, and they don't want you doing it on where organizations, they don't want you representing yourself like that as a scholar, and when you receive their funds. So you have to read the small print in that. And a lot of times we do not hear that about a scholarship. Um, and then as well, another thing that I found that I really found very important that of knowing is, and going back to that, not having and having friends. This is not undergrad. That people like to sometimes latch on to you because you sound like you're a well a student that's doing very well, or you know what you may be doing, and some people like to come in and say, let's create these partnerships, let's create these writing groups, let's create these cohorts. Sometimes you cannot do that with a lot of people.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
and that was one thing that I did attempt in the beginning of the process, is trying to have a writing partner. But I realized the way I was pushing myself, the other people were not pushing themselves in that manner.
True.
And so I
True.
had to let them slide, and it ended up being a very lonesome journey. And that's another thing that people do not necessarily realize. The doctoral process can be very lonesome,
There you go.
especially if you're very hungry for it. And I really wanted to complete my time in an adequate time. My goal was I wanted it before I turned 40, and and that was what I was trying to attain. And I ended up getting it at 39, but still, and I had 6 months left before 40, so I made my goal. But the thing was to get it before I turned 40, and I pushed myself to do that. And that's another part that I want to talk about, knowing your limits, because sometimes you can choose to do those things to try to meet the standard, and it may end up putting you in the grave, because I do know someone that passed away and had a heart attack in their process, and
Man.
they didn't make it through.
Yeah.
So whenever I read about that student that transitioned in the process, I decided to start taking better care of my health and making sure that I was eating properly. And then as well, like I stopped eating beef as a doctoral student for
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
But then that was one of the main triggers, that because I saw the girl that had a heart attack, and I was like, okay, I'm not trying to do all of that. So I let a lot of bad eating habits go, and made sure that I had enough nutrients on a day-to-day basis, and then even made sure that I had a regular workout regimen as well.
It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'm telling y'all, we appreciate all of these tips, everything that these great doctors are saying, because it gets real in those programs. It gets absolutely real. And that's why we talk about the realness here on the Doc Chat. We got Dr. Randolph, Dr. Whitfield, and Dr. Kemp, and we are rolling along. We're going to give them one more shot, give them a couple minutes to just talk about final tips as individuals look at that doctorate program of what's going to help you be successful. And before we get to that, we would definitely wanted to say thank you, everybody that's continued to send in their great tips, what they would say, what advice they have. We appreciate all that very, very much. Let me make sure. Dr. Kemp, did you have something else real quick? Just wanted to make sure you were
Oh,
okay.
I wanted to ask you if I could start this next one, because
Oh,
there was a point that I actually want to go to.
okay. Okay. Well, give me 1 second here, because I would be remiss if I did not talk about the incredible time we had this past weekend at the Gaylord. It was an awesome, awesome time where I had the chance to get with my doctoral student mentees, soon to be Dr. Askew, soon to be Dr. Tim Hurd, and we were celebrated and supported by the amazing Dr. Doctor there. I'm telling you, man, we had an incredible, incredible time where we were able to come together. We brought 40 different individuals there that were able to come together at the Gaylord Harbor Social, and it was incredible. My amazing, amazing friend that represented with me from the Doc Chat, Dr. Raven Gore. We want to say happy birthday to her, April 3rd, that Aries baby, the Aries princess there. This is her birthday, and we celebrated even greater on her birthday at that amazing event. Thank you for everybody that came out, everybody supported. An amazing time. This was our largest Doc Chat event that we had, and we want to come to New York. So I know Dr. Randolph's been talking about us getting to Chicago. We might have to make that one happen soon, because the people support the Doc Chat. Also, check out the Doctoral Student Writing Collective. If you're a student that wants help and you're in the program, we have this amazing network that meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They get together. They've already touched over 800 people just this semester, and you can be a part of it too. So thank you for everybody that came out to that amazing event, and we cannot wait to have the next one as well. And so we want to make sure we give these doctors just 1 to 2 more minutes. Give me your last little bit of advice that you would give. Dr. Kemp said he rolling, he feeling hot right now. So go ahead, my brother, go ahead, let us know what you got.
I found it very important to, and I mentioned this earlier, is having a conversation with the program director and why that was very important. One of the things, when I saw that there was someone in the chat box that said, are there any scholarships? That question should go to the program director or to potential faculty that you will be working under, because there may be research opportunities that they could provide, or they could also have campus-based resources that point you to external scholarship providers. So I think it's important to really, any question that you have, especially when it's specifically about the experience, you should reach out to current students and the faculty and staff.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. We appreciate you, the amazing, the incredible Dr. Desmond Kemp. I appreciate you, my brother, being here on the Doc Chat on tonight. Dr. Candice Randolph, what's your final thought that you would have to leave for the good people?
Sure. And someone just posted it in a live viewer. And so I'll really just speak about that. And she said something to the effect that you'll have to remove some people from your life. The way I phrase it is, everyone who starts the journey with you won't finish it with you, because everyone is not for you. There are people who will chastise you, will criticize you for how you do your doctoral journey, meaning, for instance, Dr. Kemp looking for a fully funded program so he doesn't have to work. He might be accused of being lazy. In Dr. Whitfield's case, well, he stopped going to the gym, and so he doesn't care about his health. And so now he's accused of being a slacker, or, not caring about his health or well-being. There are things that I did. I quit my job the last year of my program so that I could graduate on time, because of the intensity and the volume of research and writing and reading and writing that I was doing. Working full-time was not an option for me. And so I made a decision. And there were people who have criticized me, none whom have said it to my face, but it's fine. It still gets back to you, right? Everybody who starts, everyone who stands on the sidelines, those people, just because they're on the sidelines, it doesn't mean they're rooting for you. It doesn't mean they're in your corner. Some of them are standing on the sidelines hoping and wishing you would fail. Some of them are standing on the sidelines because they started doctoral programs and didn't finish them for whatever reason. Maybe they had a family. Maybe there was a death. Maybe they ran out of funding. Maybe they ran out of patience. Maybe they really couldn't write. Maybe they weren't as smart as they thought they were. Maybe they didn't have the fortitude. Maybe their marriage wasn't going to survive it, right? These are all very real implications of what can happen during a doctoral program. Some folks' marriages do not survive. Some folks' relationships with their kids, their families, their friends become fractured because you spend so much time in this isolated world and in your head, right? And so everyone who starts that journey, or who starts, I'll even rephrase it, everyone who is at the start line when you take off on that journey will not meet you on the finish line.
Ooh, that's good.
And everyone who is watching from the rafters and the sidelines and live is not rooting you on, because there is, for as many people as there are who want you to succeed, there are equally as many people who want you to fail for whatever whatever reason. And 85% of the time, that reason has absolutely nothing to do with you and everything to do with them or some other extenuating, mitigating circumstance that you know nothing about and that has nothing to do with you. And so understand that it's okay when those people have to get pruned and plucked, because those people aren't tied to your end goal. Those people aren't tied to your destiny. And if you are truly intended to arrive at that finish line, at that juncture, and it is, if it is for the betterment of humanity, and if it's for the betterment of adding to the body of knowledge, and not just for some self-grandiose pontification of having these 2 letters in front of your name or 3 letters in the back of your name, then it's going to happen. If you are determined enough, and if you are disciplined enough to make it happen, right? Even if you run out of money, it can still happen. I ran out of money in undergrad and on my second master's degree, and I still have 4 degrees, right? So if God has a plan,
Yeah.
then it doesn't matter what those obstacles look like. It doesn't matter what obstacles or what stumbling blocks coming your way. It doesn't matter what other people say. It doesn't matter what other voices you hear, right? It goes back to that know your why. I tell people that all the time. Know your why and run your race. Those are really the 2 keys. That's it. If you want to know how to get through a doctoral program, know your why and run your race. And don't let it be a BS why. Right? I'm gonna refrain from saying the real words, but don't let that why be some BS. Don't say, "Oh, I want a doctoral degree because I'm trying to break generational curses." No, you want the promotion at work, and they told you you weren't gonna be promoted to tenure faculty without a terminal degree. That's the why, and it's cool.
Yeah.
And I told a student that one time, I said, that's not a why. You don't want to show your kids this. You want a full-time professorship job. Understand that's your why and stick with it. It's okay. Don't lie about the why. You don't have to make up a why. Just know the why. Know it and then run your race.
Love it. Absolutely love it. That's Dr. Candice Randolph. Back on the Doc Chat, keeping it hot for us. We appreciate you, Doc. And I'm telling you that know your why and run your race. That needs to be on a t-shirt somewhere, folks, because I'm telling you, don't just say, I want to go be a doctor because you want people to call you doctor. I seen somebody wrote like a little cartoon meme or something like that. 80% of the people that said that never became a doctor. That can't be your why. You have to know your why. You have to run your race. And Dr. Randolph, we appreciate the words. I appreciate you always and always. Dr. Dennis Whitfield, 1-2 minutes, wrap us up, my guy. Let us know some final thoughts on how folks can get this doctorate degree done.
Real quick for scholarships, I just wanted to say, if you're in a program, lots of times your school have different scholarships running throughout the terms, and they name different scholarships for different things. You might have to write an essay or submit something, but take advantage of those. They may not be full tuition scholarships, but they've helped me pay for books, you know, or pay for things that, you know, I needed along the process, extra books that I just wanted to read to help me with statistics, anything. So avail yourself to those resources. Find out what they offer throughout the terms that you can also take advantage of. The other thing is, challenge yourself. Don't run from, excuse me, don't run from challenges. And I say that because at one of my residencies, I had an instructor that really I wasn't prepared for. And to make a long story short, I walked away. I went going to get encouraged, but I walked away feeling defeated. So I challenged myself, and I actually picked that person the next time that I came back. I actually picked that person because I knew that person was going to be critical. And, you know, I was ready that time, and he laughed because I told him the first time I walked away like feeling like this when I went to see him, and he laughed and he was like, you were ready. You were spot on. So challenge yourself. Don't let things happen and then you feel like you're inadequate or you can't do it. The last thing I'm going to say, the most important thing is, and I think everybody talks about it, You have to be able to take a break and rest. Know when you have to break. Know when you have to rest. People always talk about, eagles, right? Chicken can't fly with eagles. No other bird can fly as high as the eagle. Eagles fly above the storm, and if they don't make it, they stick their claws in a strong tree and they stay there until the storm passes. But Dr. Turner, what they don't tell you is, because they fly so high, because they weather so many storms, that over time their feathers get weak and die. And then, that makes them vulnerable, right? So what they do is they fly high and they go find a big, rock somewhere high up on a mountain, and they hide out there, and they shed their beak and they shed all their dead feathers and grow back more stronger feathers. And they don't leave that spot until they know they're strong enough and no longer vulnerable.
Wow.
So when you're in this program, know when you're vulnerable, know when you need to find that high place and sit yourself down and recuperate, so that you can come back and give all your energy and focus to whatever it is that you are in pursuit of. So there's that.
Love that. Absolutely love it. It's Dr. Dennis Whitfield, folks. And I'm telling you, the doors that a doctorate degree can open up are just historic. I was able to go to Italy, totally paid for. There was an organization I became a part of, gave me a scholarship. My institution gave me a scholarship. And I remember writing my chair. I said, can you believe they're going to allow a Black man to go to Italy? What you know about that? And I mean, it was a blessing to be able to present research over Italy. I had never been before. I had never had a passport before, but that was the door a doctorate degree opened up for me. So there are doors that could be opened up for you, and don't be afraid to walk through those doors. Just know it might be a challenge. I kind of turn my head up sometimes when somebody say, oh man, mine was a breeze. Mine was easy. I was like, man, I don't know what kind of doctorate program you got. Maybe you got that good honorary or something, but the real doctors, the real folks that earned it, hey, they sometimes got them slashes on the back to prove it, man, because they went through it. But I'm telling you, people are making it through it, and we're highlighting him on the doc chat, and I appreciate all y'all. So for Dr. Candicia Randolph, Dr. Desmond Kemp, Dr. Dennis Whitfield, we appreciate y'all so much tonight. All of our commenters, everybody that commented, everybody that showed inspiration, showed that motivation, we thank y'all. Keep being tuned in. Like you said, we're having some great doctors on next week, talk about University of Phoenix and the great doctors that come through there. The doc check gonna keep rolling, y'all. This is season 4. The doctors are outside. We're doing great things, and we can't wait to keep doing them. So on behalf of these great doctors, on behalf of all our commenters and everybody that tuned in, like I said, happy birthday to my great friend, Dr. Gore, all of our great folks. We want to say thank y'all for tuning into the doc chat. We'll be back next week. And until then, we say peace out.